What if you woke up at 40 and realized your life isn't really yours? Your job is stable, your relationships are fine, your routine works, and yet, something feels off, like a quiet pressure in your chest you can't ignore. Millions of people feel this exact way between 38 and 45, but almost no one talks about it. It's not a crisis. You're not failing. You're just waking up to the truth your 20s and 30s quietly scripted for you. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why most people feel lost at 40, the invisible traps that have been shaping your life without you noticing, and how to redesign your life so you never wake up wondering, is this really all there is? Whether you're under 40, around 40, or past it, this could save you years of confusion and give you clarity most people never reach. Let's dive in. 1. The age 40 awakening, the shift nobody warns you about. Something fundamental shifts inside you around age 40. It doesn't always come as a crisis. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it hits slowly. Sometimes it arrives in the form of boredom, restlessness, or a growing sense of misalignment. Researchers have tried to name this moment for decades. Psychologists call it the individuation trigger, the point where your inner self finally starts pushing back against the identity shaped by others. Neuroscientists call it the mid-career cognitive reset, a neurological transition where your brain shifts its priorities from achievement to meaning. Sociologists call it the meaning gap, the widening space between the life you live and the life you expected to have. Different fields, different terminology, but they all point to the same truth. Around age 40, your identity outgrows the life you built. Not because the life is bad, not because you made mistakes, not because you failed, but because you changed, and your life didn't change with you. Why this happens, the psychological mechanism. From ages 18 to about 39, most people live in what researchers call achievement mode. This phase is about building, proving, climbing, impressing, pursuing external validation, trying to feel good enough, trying to survive, trying to establish a foundation. You choose careers quickly. You enter relationships quickly. You say yes to almost everything. You follow the path everyone approves of. You prioritize speed over clarity. You build a life before you fully understand yourself. During this phase, the brain is tuned for productivity and social belonging. You chase stability, identity, and external success. You become who you think you're supposed to be. Then something changes. Around 38 to 45, your brain shifts into alignment mode. This phase is about meaning, authenticity, fulfillment, identity, purpose, psychological coherence, feeling whole rather than looking successful. In other words, you stop asking, "Who do people want me to be?" and start asking, "Who am I really?" This is not a failure. It is not a crisis. It is a biological maturation process. Your frontal lobe, responsible for long-term thinking and self-reflection, reaches peak development around this age. Your emotional brain matures, your perspective widens, your priorities shift. You move from external validation, internal congruence, doing what's expected, doing what's aligned, fitting in, belonging to yourself, speed, depth, ambition, authenticity. This shift makes you feel lost, but you're not lost. You're waking up. This is the awakening. Not chaos, not destruction, just truth. A truth you can't unsee. Why this awakening feels so uncomfortable? Because for the first time, you're comparing two things: the life you intended to live versus the life you actually lived. For some people, these two match. For most people, they don't. And that mismatch feels like restlessness, boredom, misalignment, emptiness, loss of direction, numbness. I don't recognize myself anymore. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. This is not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. A signal that you're ready for the next chapter of your life. One driven not by survival, but by meaning. 2. Why your 20s set the trap. The illusion of infinite time. Let's be honest about something almost universal. In your 20s, you think you have time for everything. You think life hasn't truly started yet. You think you can experiment endlessly. You think the serious decisions can wait. There is a psychological reason for this. In your early 20s, your brain's risk perception is low, your identity is flexible, and your sense of time is distorted. A decade feels like an ocean. You feel like you have infinite chances, infinite resets, infinite next steps. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Your 20s quietly shape your 40s more than any other decade. Not because you need to get it right, but because most people unintentionally build the structure of their future life during the years when they understand themselves the least. The wiring is soft, the identity is fluid, and the choices feel temporary, even though many of them become permanent. Three. Your 30s. The silent erosion, the decade no one warns you about. Your 20s feel long. Your 30s feel like a blur. This is not your imagination. It is neurological. Once life becomes routine, your brain stops recording new memories with the same intensity. You do the same things, in the same places, with the same people, at the same times. Your brain goes into efficiency mode. It compresses the years into mental shortcuts. This is why your 30s often feel like 10 minutes. And this is why so many people reach 40 and think, where did the time go? But the vanishing time isn't the real problem. The real danger is this. You become competent at things you don't care about. The dangerous comfort of competency. In your 30s, you get good at your job. You get good at your routines. You get good at managing life. You get good at responsibilities. You get good at being the role people expect. Competency feels like progress, but it can be the beginning of stagnation. Because the human brain loves comfort. It rewards predictability. It reinforces patterns. So what happens? You stay. You stay even if the job doesn't fulfill you. You stay even if the relationship isn't aligned. You stay even if the lifestyle drains you. You stay even if the identity doesn't feel true anymore. Not because it's right, but because it's familiar. Comfort is seductive. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels mature. But comfort is also the enemy of growth, the enemy of meaning, the enemy of authenticity. And worst of all, comfort slowly convinces you that change is impossible. Why your 30s speed up. 3 reasons. 1. Predictability. Your brain stops creating distinct memories when your days blend into each other. 2. Responsibility. You have more obligations, so your life becomes more scheduled and less spontaneous. 3. Identity lock-in. You begin to define yourself by your roles: friend, parent, partner, worker, leaving less space for personal exploration. These create the perfect conditions for midlife misalignment. Not because anything is wrong, but because nothing is changing. Practical takeaway. If you're in your 30s, here's the most important question you can ask yourself. What am I becoming good at that I don't want to spend my life doing? Your answer might save you years of misalignment. 4. The hidden architecture of feeling lost. Feeling lost is not random. It's not a mystery. It's not weakness. It is a predictable convergence of psychological forces. There are 7 major forces, and almost everyone experiences some combination of them around 40. Let's break them down with clarity. 1. Identity decay. The identity you built in your 20s starts to crack. Not collapse, just soften. You feel subtle friction. This isn't me anymore. I don't enjoy the things I used to. I don't care about the same goals. This is normal. Your identity is growing faster than your life structure. 2. Value shifts. External validation stops feeling good. You stop caring about status, titles, approval, applause, and you start craving meaning, authenticity, purpose, self-respect. This shift is universal. 3. Midbrain reevaluation. Your frontal lobe reaches peak maturity. This gives you deeper reflection, longer-term thinking, better emotional regulation, sharper pattern recognition. Suddenly, things you ignored for years become clear. 4. Emotional inventory. You finally have enough life experience to compare. Dreams versus reality. Expectations versus outcomes. Who you wanted to be versus who you became. This inventory can be painful, but it's essential. 5. Mortality awareness. This isn't fear of death. It's fear of unlived life, wasted time, missed potential, unexpressed purpose. It's not panic, it's clarity. 6. Social comparison. Peak at around 40, everyone's lives diverge dramatically. Some friends succeed, some struggle, some reinvent themselves, some fall apart, some stagnate. This divergence forces self-reflection. Am I where I'm supposed to be? Did I choose well? Is this the life I want? 7. The "is this it" threshold. This is the keystone moment. You suddenly realize achievement does not equal fulfillment. You've checked the boxes: career, relationships, stability, and yet something feels incomplete. That's the signal. The exact moment where the awakening begins. 5. The 12 psychological traps that make people feel lost at 40. These traps are subtle. They develop slowly. You don't notice them while they're forming. But by 40, they compound into a feeling of misalignment. 1. The achievement hangover. You accomplished the things you were supposed to: career, stability, responsibilities, but the sense of fulfillment never arrived. Why it happens? Achievement produces short-term dopamine, not long-term meaning. The brain adapts quickly and resets expectations. What to do? Shift from achievement-based goals, titles, income, outcomes, to identity-based goals, skills, values, contributions. 2. The identity freeze. You created an identity in your 20s or early 30s, but you kept it frozen. Why it happens? People resist updating their identity because change threatens stability and social roles. What to do? Perform an identity audit. What roles no longer fit me? What parts of myself have I outgrown? What new traits am I ignoring? 3. The comparison illusion. Everyone your age is diverging in different directions. Some thriving, some struggling, some reinventing. And this creates distorted comparison. Why it happens? Midlife is the peak divergence point in human life paths. Comparing at this stage is inherently inaccurate. What to do? Shift comparison from others to your past self and future self. 4. The comfort prison. Your life is stable, but too stable. Comfort becomes the enemy of growth. Why it happens? The brain is wired to avoid uncertainty. Stability becomes addictive. What to do? Introduce controlled discomfort. Learn one new skill. Change one routine. Adjust one environment factor. Small shifts disrupt stagnation. 5. The routine dead zone. Repeating the same routines dulls your sense of time and identity. Why it happens? The brain compresses predictable days into time blocks, making years feel faster and less meaningful. What to do? Add variability. New hobby, new social environment, new schedule pattern. Novelty re-engages the memory systems. The lost dreams effect. You remember dreams you once had, and feel the emotional contrast between who you thought you'd be and who you became. Why it happens? Unpursued dreams accumulate emotional residue. The gap creates dissatisfaction. What to do? Convert old dreams into modern equivalents. Maybe the dream changed shape, not direction. 7. The responsibility trap. You have obligations, bills, family, work. Everything feels nailed to the floor. Why it happens? Responsibility naturally expands to fill available time and bandwidth. What to do? Reduce unnecessary responsibilities by 10 to 20%. This small reduction gives massive psychological relief. 8. The confidence gap. You feel less bold than you once were. Why it happens? Confidence naturally declines when novelty decreases and routines dominate. What to do? Rebuild self-efficacy through small challenges that create quick wins. 9. The identity overload. You're juggling many roles: worker, parent, partner, provider, friend. Your sense of self dilutes. Why it happens? Roles become primary, and the self becomes secondary. What to do? Separate roles from identity. You are not your job. You are not your responsibilities. You are the one performing them. 10. The emotional debt. Unresolved emotions accumulate quietly over the years. Why it happens? Adults suppress emotions in favor of functionality. Emotional avoidance becomes normalized. What to do? Perform emotional cleanup. Name the feeling. Locate the cause. Identify the lesson. Release the resentment. 11. The skill plateau. Your learning slows dramatically, and your brain stops expanding. Why it happens? Most people stop learning new skills after age 30. What to do? Learn one new skill every 6 to 12 months. Even small learning keeps your brain adaptable. 12. The authenticity rebellion. Your true self starts pushing back against the life you've built. Why it happens. Authenticity becomes more psychologically important with age. What to do? You don't need a full reinvention, just alignment with your current truth. 6. The psychology of the midlife reboot. Feeling lost is not a personal failure. It is a developmental signal. Your values are shifting toward authenticity. 1. Your old identity is collapsing. This feels uncomfortable but necessary. 2. Your new identity is emerging. This creates pressure, restlessness, and clarity. 3. You are entering the life realignment phase. Every human experiences this to some degree. The good news? This is the moment with the highest potential for direction change. It's not the end. It's the beginning of a more aligned phase of life. 7. How to avoid feeling lost at 40. Step 1. Stop being who you should be. Most of your early adulthood is shaped by expectations from society, family, culture, and your younger self. To avoid misalignment, ask regularly, what expectations no longer apply to me? Which shoulds am I still carrying? Which values are actually mine? Letting go of outdated expectations clears your path. Step 2. Conduct a life audit every year. This prevents drift. Use these questions. 1. What did I do out of habit instead of intention? 2. What no longer fits my life? 3. What drained me? 4. What energized me? 5. What did I avoid facing this year? 6. What did I pretend not to notice? 7. What is trying to change in me? This yearly reflection keeps your life aligned with your evolving identity. Step 3. Change the 10% that matters. People think they need to overhaul everything. They don't. Most of your fulfillment comes from the top 10% of habits, the top 10% of environments, the top 10% of identity alignment. Changing 10% every year leads to radical transformation over time. Step 4. Build a future self pathway. Ask 3 questions. 1. Who do I admire and why? 2. What life excites me when I imagine it? 3. Which version of me feels both inspiring and slightly intimidating? Your fear often points to your next evolution. 8. The midlife reset plan, if you already feel lost. Stage 1. Radical self-honesties list. The parts of your life that no longer feel like you. Be specific. Name the misalignment. Awareness is the first step. Stage 2. Emotional decluttering release. Outdated definitions of success. Old wounds. Self-criticism. Internalized pressure. Past failures. Unrealistic expectations. Removing emotional weight creates psychological space. Stage 3. Identity calibration. Ask, what do I want now? What matters to me today, not 5 years ago? What identity feels most true? Update your internal definition. Identity is not a prison, it is a draft. Stage 4. Strategic reinvention. You don't need to change everything. Change one category at a time. Health, work, relationships, skills, creativity, purpose. Progress in one area creates momentum in all others. Stage 5. Life design. Think of your life as a portfolio. Balance it intentionally. Add new skills, new relationships, new environments, new experiences, new meaningful pursuits. Every addition shifts your identity. 9. The 9 skills that prevent midlife regret. These 9 skills function as psychological protective factors. They keep your identity adaptable, your life aligned, and your direction clear. You don't need to master all 9 at once. Improving even one of these dramatically reduces the likelihood of feeling lost later. 1. Emotional regulation. Life becomes clearer when you're not reacting from stress, fear, or overwhelm. Why it matters. Poor emotional regulation leads to impulsive decisions, unnecessary conflict, and avoidance of important changes. How to build it. 60 seconds of deep breathing. Journaling raw emotion, then summarizing it. Identifying triggers with precision. Practicing slowing down before reacting. 2. Self-awareness. Know yourself, or your life will be chosen for you. Why it matters. Lack of self-awareness leads to identity drift, mismatched careers, and relationships built on pleasing rather than authenticity. How to build it. Monthly self-check-ins. Personality and values assessments. Noticing patterns in behavior. Asking, what does this really mean about me? 3. Focus. Your attention determines your direction. Why it matters. A distracted mind cannot build a meaningful life. Focus is the foundation of progress. How to build it. Eliminate one distraction per week. Create a consistent morning routine. Block focus time, 45 to 90 minutes. Decide your top 1 to 2 priorities daily. 4. Adaptability. Rigid people break. Flexible people transform. Why it matters. Life changes. Industries change. People change. Adaptable individuals reinvent instead of collapse. How to build it. Learn new skills regularly. Embrace small uncertainties. Say yes to new experiences. Reframe change as opportunity. 5. Communication. Most life problems are communication problems. Why it matters. Poor communication damages relationships and careers. Good communication opens doors. How to build it. Express needs clearly. Avoid passive aggression. Practice active listening. Assume positive intent. 6. Boundary setting. Say yes to your future self by saying no to your past self. Why it matters. Without boundaries, your life becomes crowded with obligations that drain your identity. How to build it. Identify what you tolerate but shouldn't. Communicate limits without over-explaining. Protect your time and energy. 7. Curiosity. This keeps your brain young. Why it matters. Curiosity is the antidote to stagnation. It makes you adaptable, creative, and open to reinvention. How to build it. Try new activities. Read across different fields. Ask why more often. Follow small sparks of interest. 8. Delayed gratification. Small sacrifices build massive futures. Why it matters. The ability to delay gratification predicts long-term success better than almost any other trait. How to build it. Choose long-term value over short-term pleasure. Practice waiting 10 minutes before indulging urges. Reward consistency, not intensity. 9. Life strategy. Have a plan, but not a prison. Why it matters. Direction creates clarity, but over-rigidity creates stress. How to build it. Set 12-month themes. Set 90-day priorities. Revisit goals quarterly. Allow room for evolution. 10. What people realize at 40. These are not warnings. They are truths people only understand with age. Truths that, when acknowledged early, change everything. 1. Half of life moves faster than you think. Time compresses as predictability increases. If you don't change anything, decades will blur. 2. Approval does not fulfill you. Chasing validation feels meaningful until it doesn't. What fulfills you is alignment. 3. Comfort steals ambition. Comfort is not stability. Comfort is stagnation posing as stability. 4. Time accelerates every year. You cannot afford to procrastinate your real life. 5. Relationships matter more than achievements. Your resume will not sit at your bedside in your final days. People will. 6. You can't outrun yourself. No job, city, or relationship can hide misalignment. 7. Avoiding decisions is a decision. Indecision builds regret. Action builds clarity. 8. Your future is shrinking unless you expand your identity. You can create a bigger future, but not with the same habits and assumptions. 11. The antidote to feeling lost. Meaning is not a big purpose. Meaning is alignment. Meaning is coherence between your values, your actions, your identity, your daily life. You feel lost when these are out of sync. Let's break down the components of meaning so they're practical. 1. Contribution. Humans need to feel useful, not in a self-sacrificing way, in a purposeful way. 2. Growth stagnation kills your spirit. Growth reactivates it. 3. Relationships connection is a form of meaning. Not quantity, quality. 4. Purpose. Purpose is not a single mission. It is the direction that feels true. You don't find purpose, you grow into it. 5. Creativity. Not art, expression. Any activity where you create something new is psychologically meaningful. 6. Connection to yourself, to others, to something larger, to life itself. 7. Authenticity. The deeper you become yourself, the more meaningful life feels. Meaning is not found at the top of the mountain. Meaning is found in the alignment between what you do and who you are. 12. If you're under 40, do this now. A practical checklist to prevent midlife misalignment. 1. Don't follow a script. Choose consciously. 2. Avoid staying in jobs purely for safety. 3. Don't settle because it's easy. Easy is expensive later. 4. Don't let comfort become your prison. Challenge yourself regularly. 5. Don't wait for the right time. It rarely arrives. 6. Don't ignore your early misalignments. Small discomforts become major issues over time. 7. Don't betray your future self. Your future self remembers your choices and your avoidance. 13. Conclusion. Your second life starts when you wake up at 40. Something remarkable happens. You realize you don't get a second youth, but you do get a second life. You realize that the life you built was necessary, but perhaps not complete. You realize the real work of adulthood isn't building a life, it's building a life that fits. Feeling lost isn't a crisis. It's a signal, a quiet knocking from the part of you that wants to be seen, expressed, and lived. This moment is not the end. It's the beginning. Your real life begins when you choose. Alignment over expectations, meaning over momentum, authenticity over approval, direction over drifting, a life that feels true over a life that merely looks right. If you feel lost, it's because you're finally ready to find yourself.